The thing that most content creators that you see blowing up online have mastered that you haven't is that they're letting content be on easy mode. And if you want to succeed in content in 2025 and onwards, there's honestly no better way to do than letting it be easy. Because this is the very same piece of advice that let me break out of the 200 view jail as soon as I started doing it. And now, almost a year and a half later, I have over almost 100,000 followers across all platforms. And the advice is to let it be easy because a lot of people come into content thinking that they need to prove something, thinking that like they don't already know what it is they need to do, and to some extent that is true. Like you, if you're just starting out with content, there are some keys that you're missing where you're gonna need to have to learn how to create a good hook. You're gonna need to learn like how to go and remove fillers from your video. You're gonna need to learn how to deliver value to say it with a high energy. But the thing is these are all things that you learn by doing it. Because one of the best ways that I've found to think about content creation is that it's a lot like swimming. And so no one goes into the pool the first time and becomes an Olympic level swimmer. In fact, a lot of people are just scared of even just swallowing water or maybe even drowning. And the key is to actually just start to dip your feet in again and again. But the problem that a lot of people run into is that they'll get into the water a couple of times. They'll be like, man, I don't even know how to swim. And it's because you're not comfortable in the water because in the occult sense, water represents emotions. And especially when we start to get into content creation, we realize that all of the emotions and the fears of judgment and the fears of showing up and the fear of what other people are going to think of us come right to the surface. And then that starts to go and trigger other fears like, am I even qualified enough? Could I even do this? Is this even going to be of benefit to me? And you need to actually be able to silence those fears, to silence your mind and just create. And this is exactly the start of when it starts to be easy. Because you're probably someone that's totally comfortable talking to your friends. And maybe if you even feel a little uncomfortable, there's times where you get lit up, where you get excited, where you find something that you like to talk about with somebody that you know is interested, and conversation just flows. But the difficult part emerges when you start to think that that part of yourself is not enough, that there's more that you need to do. And there's videos blowing up on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, where it's very low editing, very low production value. But the thing is these people simply know how to become their higher self because they've gotten comfortable in the water. They've realized, you know what, like I don't need to go and have the master breaststroke like Michael Phelps. I can just do it like me. I can do it while having fun with it. And the more you learn to play in this water, this emotion that comes up, the better at creating content that you're going to be. Because if you look around online, everybody's playing a character. But the way that I like to think about it is you're actually being the version of yourself that already has everything that you want. So there's nothing that you need from content creation. There's no real lie that is going into it. You're just being yourself and you're being the person that you want to be. Because honestly, what is more authentic than that, right? Like if you're going and trying to be somebody else, you're trying to put on this mask or go and like be a good customer service person or be a corporate person or be somebody else, right? That's actually not who you really are. But that's how a lot of people think that they need to show up on social media to see success. And so they wonder then, why are my videos not getting any views? Why is nobody interested? And sometimes you will get a video that does well even when you're in one of those masks. But I guarantee you, from personal experience of going from 200 view jail to breaking well out of it to going back down into it at times and to getting back out of it and getting to the point regularly where my videos get thousands of views, it really is not that hard to succeed. But what you need to do is you need to let it be easy. And in fact, that was the first advice that I got that actually allowed me to go from trying social media, wondering why it wasn't working, quitting, trying again, quitting, and my friend, he told me, he was like, hey, bro, you really love tarot cards. You love doing tarot readings. What if you just did that and had fun with it? And for you, it's probably not going to be tarot. If it is, then I highly encourage you to start. But whatever it is, just start to talk about it. He said, hey, go get yourself out in nature. Feel really good. Give something to transmit to people because it just feels good to give. It feels good to share. It feels good to be recognized for who you are and start to put out that version of yourself. Because the thing is, as you put out the version of yourself into the universe that is enjoying what it is you're doing, that's expressing who you really are, that's being this authentic higher self that you were actually born here to be, then what happens is you set that up for the rest of your reality. You set yourself up to be someone that is expressive, someone that is creative, someone that is abundant, because you're magnetizing more things in that frequency to flow through you. And the best part about when you're doing that with content is you're actually going and also allowing a vehicle for those very things that you desire to come into your reality. Because with content, you're engaging so many more people. You're not just engaging in the third dimension anymore. You're engaging in the fourth dimension, and you're grabbing onto the fifth dimension, because once you create a piece of content, it's there forever. Once you do something in the third dimension, you got to do it again. With content, you do something once, it gets pushed out for as long as really is relevant, you know? And so that's the real biggest difference, is you start to make connections, you start to have an opportunity for you to build your expertise, for you to show that you're good at something, for people to recognize you, possibly even want to pay you if you have an offer. And if this is something, if you want help setting up an offer and also everything that goes along with it, go click the link in the description, book a free call, and me and my team will see if you're somebody that we can help actually go and be an incredibly abundant being through creating content. But the thing is that it's all going to come together for you when you let it be easy, when you just stop overthinking and you're like, you know what? Like, I give myself permission to create. I give myself permission to fail. I give myself permission to jump in the water and try to swim, you know, and just when it gets scary, go back out. Like, a video is only a couple minutes. And if you're really having trouble speaking like straight through these videos, like I do, you know, to be honest with you, it took me a year to be able to do this, to be able to just go and riff a video straight through. For a long time, what I would do is I would go and record one sentence at a time. So I would hit the little big red button in TikTok, click it, go and say, if you're seeing this, this is a message from your spirit guides. Click it again. Like, oh, what's the message from the spirit guides? Oh, you're being called to create content to go and live your best life and express the fifth dimensional frequency of who you really are. Click the button again. And what that's going to do for you is it's going to actually create opportunities to flow through you. You know, so you see how what you're doing is you're pretty much like saving your progress in a video game. Because when I first started, and probably if you're just starting too, you're going to maybe flub your words. You're going to get anxious. You're going to be like, oh, that could have been sounding better. And the key is to not let that feeling really like impede you very much, because like the tendency to overanalyze is so high when we first start out to create content that the barometer that I like to use is just, is this coherent? Because what I learned in both making music for 5 years and then also recording content for just about 2 years now is that it's often the first take has some like special mojo to it, where you're just like expressing yourself, where you're not worried about what's going on, where you're just like actually like in the flow. And as soon as you start to delete that and you're like, oh, my flow's not good enough, then it's like it really becomes difficult to like feel good about your videos. They start to sound sort of robotic. They sound a little bit disjointed. And so that's why I'm a big believer in just actually letting it be easy. And that's part of letting it be easy, is just like realizing that first take has a certain mojo. But like if you're going like, if you like say like, oh, your spirit, if you do that, right, like you want to delete it and then restart. But you don't really want to like overanalyze. What you want to do is just start to get a lot of volume out there. Because like when you're first starting to create content, you have to find your own style. You have to find what works for you. You have to find your own way of getting into that flow state and just allowing yourself to create again and again and again. Because that's what being a content creator really is. It's learning to open your channel to your higher self and transmit your essence to create a digital reflection that can bring you whatever it is that you want. And ultimately, it's like it's going to seem hard at times. I guarantee you, because I feel it even sometimes when I'm like, oh, it feels hard to create content. I don't want to. But the thing is, I have over a year and a half of experience of getting over that and remembering that it's actually not that hard. Because the thing is if your friend called you and they wanted to talk about something, you probably have the time, the energy to go and talk to them for 10, 20, 30, maybe even an hour long. So then why then is it so difficult to go and create a piece of content which is going to be like 1 to 3 minutes? Yeah, it's going to be a little longer if you're doing YouTube, but for a lot of people, they're still stuck on doing the short forms. And so the reason that it feels much more difficult to create that piece of content is because you're still judging the way that you show up when you're creating. Because you haven't gone and allowed yourself to be like, you know what? If I make a bad video, the worst thing that's going to happen is somebody's going to see it and I'm going to get more data on what doesn't work. And the best thing that could happen is that it goes viral and completely changes your life, just like my first video did when it got 800,000 views 5 months into creating content. 7,000 followers overnight. You're gonna feel that rush. And yeah, it didn't actually go and like improve my life in a measurable way, other than just letting me know that like, oh, I'm on the right path and I have a gift and an ability to do this. But it did set the stage for me to be able to later go and make $25,000 in the last 4 months from recording the same style of content, just a little bit more experienced. And so the reason that it feels difficult to do that, though, is because you're judging the way that you show up, and you're thinking that the way that you show up to your friends or to people that want to talk to you is fundamentally different and not as good as the way that you need to show up for your audience. And the funny part is like when you can actually master the art of just talking to your audience like a friend, that's when you become really recognizable. That's when people want to buy your service. That's when people want to go and follow you, because they can tell that you're not just another robotic voice, that you're being yourself. You're being a real being. And so learning to get over this hump of just feeling like, oh my gosh, how do I show up as myself? You know, it just requires practice. And the way that you want to do this is you want to just allow yourself to go and remove all the obstacles to creating content that you possibly can. Because one of the ways that becomes really insidious to stop you from creating content is the idea that you do not already have it all together. Like, yeah, there's going to be things that you could learn more, you know, like that's true. There's certain principles of making hooks and making videos that open loops in people's minds and make them want to know what happens next. And these are all psychological tricks that are really like well known in the marketing world, but aren't really that well known in the like regular person world. But like ultimately, they're all going to be meaningless if you don't allow yourself to show up and have the camera presence to simply communicate in a way that is exciting to watch, that is enjoyable, that is authentic. And so the way that you get that is removing all of the different obstacles to creating content. So you realize you can create content when you're in your car. You know, you can create content while you're on your couch. You can create content when you're in your bed. You know, like, and it's much better to make a video in like that's worse than it is to not make a video at all. Like, one of the most wealthy people I know that makes content for a living makes $1.4 million a month. And he told me, he was like, hey, when you're thinking about making content, don't shoot for 100% good, because that means you're never going to do anything. Shoot for 60% good. Because 60%, when you shoot for 60% good, that just means it needs to be coherent. It just means it needs to go and have a text hook. It just means it needs captions. Everything else is extra. You know, having a nice background is great. You know, it does help. But if you not having a nice background is the obstacle that's going to make you like wait to create content until you rent an art studio and spend a bunch of time and money setting it up, which I did, you know, and it didn't get me anywhere. I've probably recorded like, you know, like a couple dozen videos there, but I record way more just wherever I'm at because I've let it be easy, you know, and that is by far what is actually going to allow you to live this life of being a content creator and making a ton of money. Whether you want brand deals, whether you want coaching clients, whether you want clients for like an agency or an offer that you run or anything really, it's going to be so much more effective for you to just figure out what works by doing a lot of volume rather than thinking that you need to go and have fancy edits, that you need to go all the way to the top level of content creation, making cinematic reels. Like, no, you just need to be yourself. You just need to actually let your authenticity flow through you and know that as you do that, as you be the most exciting and compelling version of yourself, that people are going to want to watch it. You know, and the worst part that happens if people don't is you get better. And that's exactly how my clients are being massively successful, getting their first viral video in weeks, going and getting 30,000 followers in 3 months. For myself, going to close to 100,000 followers in a year and a half. So it really does work. You just have to go and let it be easy. And that's how content creation can change your life. So if you want some help with this, go click the link in the description. Go and book a call with me and my team. We'll see if you're a good fit to go and work with us and get you the full stack of creating content, making an offer, and learning how to sell it so you can go and make a ton of money and live your most abundant and authentic life where you can actually get paid for helping people, doing something you love. And this is your sign to let it be easy. So go leave in the comments if there's anything else you want me to touch on. If this resonated for you, let me know. And yeah, follow for more. Aloha.